Right now, underneath one of Britain's biggest cities, three separate tunnels are quietly reshaping how 2.5 million people are going to live, work, and watch football for the next 50 years. Almost nobody outside Birmingham has heard of any of them. That's about to change. Birmingham doesn't get the glamour of London or the scenery of the Lake District. It gets written off as a concrete roundabout with a canal running through it. But underground, away from the cameras, engineers have just finished boring one of the longest tunnels in Britain. Planners are quietly drawing up a second one that could finally fix a 100-year-old bottleneck. And a football club is about to build a third, purely to move fans. 3 tunnels, 3 completely different reasons, and together they might do more to transform this city than anything built above ground since the 1960s. Start with the one that's already finished. The Bromford Tunnel. This is part of HS2, Britain's new high-speed rail line, and it's the tunnel that finally drags Birmingham into the high-speed network. 2 parallel bores, each running for about 5.8 kilometres, or 3.5 miles, cut deep underground between Water Orton and Washwood Heath, just northeast of the city centre. 2 enormous tunnel-boring machines did the digging. One named Mary Ann, which broke through back in March 2024, and a second named Elizabeth, which completed the final breakthrough in October 2025, officially finishing all of HS2's tunnelling work through the West Midlands. When trains start running through it, the Bromford Tunnel will carry passengers straight into Birmingham's new Curzon Street station, at speeds that make the current cross-country rail network look like it's standing still. The government's own projections put the wider economic impact at around £10 billion for the region over the next decade. New jobs, new investment, and a rail journey from Birmingham to London that's about to get dramatically shorter. It's already built. It's just waiting for trains. None of that will mean much to the average person, though, until Curzon Street itself opens. The new station is the first entirely new intercity railway terminus built anywhere in Britain since the Victorian era, and construction on it is already underway in the city centre, with a design that deliberately echoes the grand Victorian train sheds Birmingham used to be famous for. Once trains are actually running through the Bromford Tunnel and into Curzon Street, the journey from Birmingham to London Euston is expected to drop to somewhere around 49 minutes, roughly half what it takes today. The catch is timing. HS2 has been repeatedly delayed and recosted since the project began, and current estimates now put full services between London and Birmingham, opening sometime in the early to mid-2030s, rather than the late 2020s dates originally promised. The tunnel itself, in other words, has been sitting finished and empty for years, waiting for the rest of the railway around it to catch up. The second tunnel doesn't exist yet, and it might not for years, but it's aimed at a problem Birmingham has been quietly living with for over a century. Deep under the city centre sits Proof House Junction, an almost invisible piece of railway infrastructure that happens to be one of the worst bottlenecks on the entire British rail network. Nearly every train moving through the West Midlands has to funnel through this single pinch point, and it's been limiting how many services the region can run for decades. As part of a much larger plan called the Midlands Rail Hub, a £1.75 billion investment already underway to add hundreds more train services across the region, the West Midlands Rail Executive is now seriously exploring something bigger: a new tunnel directly beneath the city centre, bypassing Proof House Junction entirely and linking Birmingham's 3 main stations, New Street, Moore Street and HS2's Curzon Street, into one properly connected system. If it happens, it would effectively give Birmingham its own miniature version of London's Crossrail, something transport planners have been arguing the city needs for the better part of 20 years. It's still on the drawing board. But for the first time, it's being taken seriously, This isn't a standalone idea either. It's the centrepiece of a much bigger scheme called the Midlands Rail Hub, already partly under construction. One part of it, a pair of new rail links known as the Bordesley Cords, is being built right now to connect the Camp Hill line into Moore Street Station, work that was originally meant to finish by the end of 2024, and is now expected to wrap up by the end of 2025. Once the wider Midlands Rail Hub is finished, expected sometime in the early 2030s, if funding holds, the region is projected to gain roughly 24 additional trains per hour running through Birmingham, including new direct services to Leicester, Derby, Nottingham, Bristol and Cardiff. People have been calling this Birmingham's answer to London's Crossrail for years, only cheaper, slower to arrive, and with a lot less fanfare. The full underground tunnel option is still the most ambitious, least certain piece of that puzzle, but it's the one that would finally let Birmingham's rail network stop apologising for a junction most of its own residents have never heard of. The third tunnel is the strangest one, because it's got nothing to do with trains at all. It's about football fans. Birmingham City's American owner, Tom Wagner, has unveiled plans for a £3 billion sports quarter in Bordesley Green, built around a new 62,000-seat stadium designed with 12 industrial chimneys as a nod to the brickworks that used to stand on the site. But the part that's actually raising eyebrows among engineers isn't the stadium, it's the access. Wagner's plan includes a 1.5-mile underground tunnel connecting Birmingham New Street Station directly to the new stadium site, purpose-built to move thousands of fans an hour by electric bus without a single one of them setting foot on a normal city street. It's a comparatively modest £20 million next to the other two projects, but it's backed by a UK government commitment of £2.4 billion toward West Midlands transport links, and, if it gets built, it will be one of the only purpose-built matchday transit tunnels anywhere in European football. The stadium itself is only the anchor of something much bigger. Around it, Knighthead's plans call for a full sports quarter on the site of the old Birmingham Wheels attraction in Bordesley Green, including a separate 10,000-seat stadium for the women's team, an 18,000-seat arena for concerts and other events, a training academy, a hotel, offices, and public green space, all wrapped around those 12 chimney towers. The club says the wider regeneration project will create around 8,400 jobs in one of the most deprived parts of the city, which is a large part of why the government has been willing to back it with serious transport money rather than dismissing it as a vanity project. A formal planning application for the whole sports quarter is expected to be lodged in 2026, following a period of public consultation with residents, fans, and local political representatives. And if everything stays roughly on schedule, the club is aiming to have supporters walking through that tunnel and into a finished stadium in time for the start of the 2030-31 season. It's worth saying plainly that none of this comes cheap or risk-free. HS2 as a whole has been one of the most criticised infrastructure projects in modern British history, with its budget ballooning from an original estimate of around £33 billion to well over £60 billion. And the government cancelling the entire northern leg to Manchester back in 2023 to try to keep costs under control. Birmingham essentially became the accidental endpoint of a project that was originally meant to reach much further north. And yet, the Bromford Tunnel and Curzon Street Station are still going ahead regardless, because Birmingham is Britain's second largest city by population, sitting at the geographic centre of the country, and every version of the plan, cut down or not, has kept the West Midlands as the anchor. That's really the thread running through all three of these projects. None of them were dreamed up in isolation. They're happening because Birmingham, rightly or wrongly, keeps getting treated as the one place outside London the country can't afford to leave behind. Put those three together, and you get a city being rewired from below in almost total silence. One tunnel already finished, quietly waiting for trains to start running through it. One tunnel still just lines on a planning document, aimed at unblocking a 100-year-old choke point nobody outside the rail industry has ever heard of. And one tunnel built for absolutely nothing except getting football fans from a train platform to their seats without touching daylight. None of them will get you a dramatic ribbon cutting on the evening news. But give it 10 years, and the way Birmingham moves, and the way the rest of the country sees it, might be unrecognisable. And almost none of it will be visible from the street. Walk through Birmingham city centre today and you'd never guess any of it is happening. There's no viewing gallery over the Bromford Tunnel, no public model of the proposed Crossrail-style route under Proof House Junction. No sign at Bordersley Green hinting at a stadium tunnel that hasn't broken ground yet. The only real evidence is scattered across council planning portals, HS2 progress reports, and the odd local news story that barely makes it outside the West Midlands. That's usually how the biggest changes to a city actually happen, quietly, underground, years before anyone above ground notices the difference.